Hi, I am Deborah Bly, a realtor here in League City. Welcome back to the podcast. Today I am sitting here with Miss Laurie Bowman, and we are going to talk about home warranties. So if you're buying a home or selling a home, more than likely you have some questions about home warranties.
For sure.
And Laurie, how long have you been doing this?
Start year 20 next year.
So you have a little experience.
Yes.
So first of all, for the buyer that is looking to get a home warranty, what are some of the benefits that a buyer is going to get from having a home warranty?
Really two major ones. First is peace of mind. You know, because
they just went to closing and they're writing a big check.
Big check. So peace of mind that your budget will stay intact, and if something does fail unexpectedly, which I hate to say it frequently happens, then they have budget protection for that item that's covered.
I think what you're essentially telling me is there are so many, and I know I look at your list of all the different options that you guys provided, and I know I just come to you and I say, I just bought a house.
Yeah.
It's a flip house.
Yeah.
I'm not even going to be keeping the house. And I put a home warranty.
But you will be owning the house, yes.
For a little.
Yeah, for a little bit. Yeah.
For a couple of months.
Yeah.
But we're going to dive into that in a minute and why you would do that. But, I just look at you and say, which boxes do I check? Which are the coverages that I want?
That's the thing. I think, having been in the area for so long, and I know the typical things that are going to happen, and in any store you walk into or any service you walk into, they can tell you the life expectancy of a piece of equipment. So as a general rule of thumb, I go for things that are end of life, which usually means older, and the most expensive items first.
Right.
Because I know everyone doesn't have an unlimited budget, so let's find the things that we can budget protect the most.
Well, not only budget protect, but honestly, wisely budget, right?
Wisely budget.
Shoot, I bet you could spend $1,500 on a home warranty. There'd be no value in doing that, so to speak.
Yeah, it's probably not as, I just think it comes down to being wise with your money.
Right.
Yeah.
So making good decisions. If somebody's looking through that list and they're having a hard time making a decision as to, what would be their wiser choices be, I know you have been really phenomenal about being available to help give somebody some counsel.
Yeah. I have a friend who used to deal with contracts as a living, but when it came time to choose his warranty, he was overwhelmed. By the time you get through the mortgage process, it can seem a little overwhelming. And so that's what I'm here for, to give some clarity to that. Simple, it's not as difficult, especially if you know already what you're looking at.
Okay, so peace of mind so that you don't have those surprises that come up. So that's for the buyer. Now for a home seller, they're not going to be living in the home. What are some of the benefits a seller gets? Because most of the time, the buyer is requesting that the seller purchase a home warranty for them, right?
Yes.
They're requesting, in the contract, they're requesting a certain dollar amount that get credited toward a home warranty of the buyer's choosing.
So I think your question is, why would the seller want to do that, right?
That is correct.
Yeah. So the reason is, and this is interesting, I had not thought about this, but we are kind of partnering with an E&O company, which is Errors and Omissions for Agents, and what they say.
E&O company is Errors and Omissions for Agents, and what that means is it's a insurance company that basically, should there be a lawsuit involved in anything, Errors and Omissions should help cover some, barring that you're not doing anything you shouldn't be doing.
Exactly. But sometimes buyers have a expectation, especially in the first 6 months after closing, is what they're telling us is the prime time that the buyers think they've been sold a lemon, even though they may not have, but emotions are there. And so the seller is the only truly unprotected person in a home sale situation or home purchasing situation. The home warranty has been proven to reduce claims by 30% for sellers.
So you think about that. If you're selling a home, and I'm not saying, honestly, majority of deals do not go into litigation. However, those homes that do have a home warranty attached to them, you're seeing that statistically looking at things, there's 30% fewer
Yes, yes.
litigation
Yeah.
claims or litigation, what would
Yeah,
you call
I
it?
think it's just, I would say that claims for something that they felt wronged.
Where
Yeah.
they felt like they
Yeah.
were wronged in,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So I think that's a very good point there as well. But in addition to that, when I go on the listing, I'm going to ask some key questions. And for a lot of sellers, I'm going to encourage them to get a home warranty on the property right away. So explain how that
Yeah.
coverage
Well,
works.
and
So what
yeah.
that means is the seller at the time that we sit there and list the
Yeah.
home is going to get a home warranty, which will give them coverage.
Yeah.
So
And this is
but there's
where,
other
yeah.
benefits to that as well. Explain some
And
of
this
that.
is where your experience is showing. How long have you been doing this?
A minute.
Yeah, yeah. And so that's where a lot of agents may not know that the seller actually can have coverage during their listing, because we know they're trying to sell the house. They don't want to, really have to pay for any repairs of things that they're not exciting. They're moving the house. So this gives the seller, it's called seller's coverage, but it's really sellers to buyers coverage. If they are buying the buyer a warranty, we will actually start a great little coverage for them as well, with usually no upfront cost.
So what that means is I'm going to go to a listing. We're signing our listing paperwork. For quite a few sellers, I'm going to have the suggestion that we put a home warranty on the property. And like you said, that is at no cost to the seller. So to me, that's like a no-brainer. The only time it is going to be a cost is when the buyer goes to purchase a home. There is a fairly great likelihood, if that buyer is smart, that they're going to retain the home warranty that is already in place on the property. So explain why that would
part
be
is important.
Explain why that would be important. Now, if they choose not to, that seller has had coverage at no cost.
Yeah.
But the buyer, at the time that they purchase a home, they're going to have the decision or the choice to make to either keep the existing coverage
Or no coverage at all.
or no coverage at all, or move over to another home warranty.
The beauty of it is, and I know this is the way First American looks at it, for us, it is a tandem policy. So even though the buyer is going to get a full year at closing, we will actually start it at listing for the seller's coverage for up to 80 days, 180 days, possibility to extend. What happens is it closes, let's say it closes one day, and 3 days after closing, something fails. It's sometimes hard to prove that it was working properly, because one of the foundations of a home warranty must be working properly at the time the coverage starts.
Correct.
And fail due to normal wear and tear. Sometimes that is a little hard for a tech to tell. They are professionals in their own right, so usually they can, but sometimes it's a little hard when you get into, unfortunately, the big ticket items like AC and heat, electrical. And so if that policy has transferred to the buyer, we can't hardly say it's pre-existing because it's been on the other home all that time.
Yeah. So, and essentially what you're saying is this. A seller gets, let's say a buyer purchases a home and there's not an existing home warranty on that home. 3 days after closing, and I mean, not because the seller has done anything wrong or malicious, but sometimes it just happens that, 2-3 days after closing, all of a sudden we have a problem.
Or it's coming to light,
or it's
maybe,
it's coming to light.
Yeah.
But if you were to get that, as a seller, if you were to get that policy in advance, that when that problem comes to light, 2 or 3 days after you've purchased the home, you have a history of that warranty being on the home.
The history is huge.
The history is huge. And then the other thing I think that goes along with that history is, first you had the home warranty on the home, and then second, that buyer had inspections on the home. And let's just say AC, for instance, the inspector checked out the AC, it was working fine and all that kind of stuff. It still could potentially happen that, a couple of days after closing, we have a problem. But you guys would also look at the inspection report.
Actually, yeah. But, we actually at First American, we have one when we talked about policy differences. This is something, there is an unknown pre-existing clause. So if you know about it, it's not it's pre-existing. But there's an unknown clause. And with First American, if the buyer seller agent could not have seen the issue. Like if there is a furnace that goes out and there's no flame rollout that's been on there, but it was working at the time of closing, let's say it fails, we're not going to deny coverage because it couldn't have been seen.
Right.
Yeah, and so that's one of the extras we have built into our policy as well.
And again, back to the other benefit of having that home warranty age with the house.
It's just
That's
huge.
gonna, would you say that you, and I'm asking, maybe we'll strike this out of the video, I don't know. I'm just asking, would you say that overall, when you see that the seller has gotten a policy in advance and it has some history with that home, that you see less claims of that request for coverage being denied?
Rarely have it. I don't know that I can think of a time when it wasn't covered.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I just can't, after all these years, I can't tell you a time that we would have batted an eye at that.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, and so
Or something that was on the covered list providing, yeah.
So now you can, I hope you guys are getting from this that for you as a buyer, this really gives you a lot of peace of mind. But I hope you're also getting from this, if you're a seller, that even though you're the one most of the time, majority of the time, all contracts are negotiable, but majority of the time you as a seller are going to be the person that's going to be requested to foot, that the bill of that assurance for the buyer. Right, you're still going to get really a great advantage.
A great advantage. And plus that they can build that into the price of the sale.
Right.
It's a win-win for everybody. Yeah.
Well, and even if you're not necessarily building it into the price of the sale, if you're offering a home warranty on your home and the other house they saw 2 blocks over is not offering a home warranty and they're just, drawing a line in the sand where they're not going to cover it, that's a cost to the buyer that does make you somewhat less competitive in the market.
Yeah. I tease everyone. Even my toaster that cost $20 came with a warranty. So why not a $250,000 home?
That's a good point.
Yeah.
So I said we'd come back to that. Remember I was sharing with you how I bought a house. I want to say about 3 weeks from now, and my goal is to not own it 2 months from now. So we're making some repairs and all that kind of stuff to basically, they call that flipping, to flip that home over to the new buyer. I know it has a older AC. It's working fine. It's in good condition. To my knowledge, there's nothing wrong with it, or I promise you I'd be disclosing that. But you know what? It's an older AC. I want the peace of mind while I own it that, gosh, if it does conk out, I don't have
if you want
I don't have a surprise, but in addition to that, I'm passing along peace of mind to the buyer that's going to be purchasing that home.
Absolutely. Here, as a homeowner, home buyer, seller, or just a homeowner off the street, would you rather pay full price for an AC, water heater, dishwasher repair, or would you rather have it at a discount? We all want to.
Should they answer that question? we should do a poll. We should do a poll, and we're going to make and we're going to make bets.
Yeah.
But, yeah. So I think the answer to that question is obvious. So peace of mind, sellers covered litigation. Golly, I think for this episode, that wraps it up. If you have any questions whatsoever, we're going to make sure that Chris, our videographer, includes Laurie's name and contact information below this video.
Yeah.
So feel free, don't reach out to me because I don't know the answer, but feel free to reach out to Laurie. I know she won't mind taking your call or your email and try and answer any questions that you might have. Thanks for tuning in.
Glad to help. A pleasure.